Hey guys, welcome back to the Atypical Declutter game. My name is April and you are at Atypical Life. Today is day 11. So in a pre-COVID world when somebody said we could declutter pretty much anything because we could just run out and get it tomorrow, I felt pretty comfortable with that. But something happened during COVID that just re-triggered something in me that I had been working through for a long time and I had finally made some progress on. But that thing was the poverty scarcity complex. The poverty complex is something that often happens to people who survive the trauma of not knowing where the next thing is coming from. People who have grown up in or experienced situations where there's been major shifts in the income, job losses, availability of goods, people whose parents were just terrible at managing money, so they would end up having to go without or ask for favors because there just wasn't enough resources. There are so many scenarios that lead people to have this pattern of thinking where they want to hold on to whatever they have because they aren't sure where the next thing will come along. We all even kind of do this sometimes with relationships. We're not sure where the next boyfriend will be, so we hold on to the one that's not so great, right? This also plays out on a spectrum, and you don't have to have experienced poverty or scarcity or any major trauma to develop this type of mindset. I even believe that many of our grandparents passed this on to us because of their living through WW2 and the Great Depression. And let's be honest, it's not necessarily a terrible mindset to have, depending on where you fall on the spectrum, depending on your current circumstances. It's cool to be a little more reluctant to trash something you might find another use for. In a world of disposable everything, it's okay to want something a little more permanent. It's also a way of thinking that might help you be a little more prepared for your future and not always having to rely on chance to get you through. You're actually saving in preparation for something. So yeah, it's not terrible. It's just depends on what your goals are, whether it's an issue or not. I was talking to a fellow decluttering friend, and she mentioned the impact that COVID had on her decluttering. She found decluttering a lot harder now as well than it was before. And like I said, I experienced this big time. During COVID, the majority of decluttering stopped completely for me. The wheels absolutely reversed. It was like a train. And suddenly I was leaning more towards hoarding again. Why? Why during COVID the poverty scarcity complex would come up? I mean, the world suddenly seemed so much more unstable and insecure than it previously felt. Whether that's true or not, whether that's a perception or not, it just felt that way for sure for a lot of people. There were, supply chain issues became the new headline, and not leaving your house for extended periods of time was the norm. Economic instability, inflation, job changes, all these different fluctuations, different types of, misinformation, all these different things that were information and misinformation and just so much going on that it is no wonder something that has to do with security might feel triggered in a lot of us. And so suddenly the idea that we can just replace it for $20 in 20 minutes became so much more complicated. Going out of the house for entertainment wasn't really likely for many people. And so that made for us at our house investments in toys and books, home entertainment tripled at least. The amount of stuff we owned in those categories before COVID, it tripled because we used to go out a lot for our entertainment, and we didn't need as many toys because we were outside doing things for entertainment, like I said. So the point is, you might have experienced this too, and it's okay. It's absolutely normal. It's something I think a lot of us deal with. And if you grew up in unstable situations, you might struggle with this a little more frequently. It might be a little more difficult. I haven't figured out any way to change how the brain functions around this yet. The only thing that I know of that we can do is accept that it's part of who we are. And understand that sometimes we will have a harder time than others letting things go. Sometimes we will have to be more aware of our brains scheming to come up with a whole bunch of ways that we might use something in the future. And we'll have to really ask ourselves, are any of these scenarios likely to occur? It's okay to be nervous about letting something go and doing it anyways. I always tell my son, and I've read this somewhere, that the definition of being brave is doing something when you are afraid of it. There is no bravery without fear. Making positive changes in your life requires bravery from time to time. So it's okay. It's okay to declutter afraid. Do it afraid. Have you ever heard that? Do it afraid. Do it if you're not quite sure. Now, if you feel really uncomfortable, don't do it. But if you're just a little bit afraid, sometimes it's okay. It's also okay to not declutter right now. It's okay to put things on hold, put things back until you are emotionally ready or until you are more emotionally secure. Just focus, if you're going to do that, just focus on the things that you can do right now. If there are certain items that you're comfortable letting go of, go ahead and start with those. Start by making a list of what makes something trash. So define what trash is to you and really challenge yourself to just go and find the trash laying around for a while until you get up a little bit more security, until you feel a little bit better. If you find yourself really, really stuck after having run through all these tips that I'm sharing with you, there's tips out there everywhere for decluttering. Ask for help. Okay, you can ask for help, for perspective. You can ask questions here. You can ask questions for some of these other ladies that are doing decluttering websites. A lot of them have live groups. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to get help. There's also counseling. BetterHelp is a really good resource. But you can ask for help and you can give it a rest and just focus on tidying until you feel a little bit more secure in your life and situations. I found that tidying is a good replacement for if you can't declutter. At least you can kind of keep things up, and that will help your brain still feel that sense of calm that comes from having your house decluttered. As long as your extra stuff, now I say all this, but I want to definitely note that don't worry about it until later, as long as your extra stuff isn't, I say all this, but I really want to drive home that don't worry about it till later works, as long as your extra stuff isn't a hazard or isn't causing major problems for you. At that point, it can't wait, okay? If it's either of those things, I would really suggest counseling or reaching out to a friend or family member and really talking about it and getting serious and letting them help you come up with some kind of plan to work through this. Don't let anybody try to force you to declutter. I think that is, unless you're on like Hoarders or something, don't let anybody try to force you to declutter, but maybe start counseling with someone who can help you work through these thoughts of insecurity. This is one of those instances where I really wanted to go do what I was talking about in the video and check for things that I was holding on to because of supply issues or availability issues or money. And I mean, it was really easy. It was really, really easy. And I knew exactly where to look. I know that I had these things on my mind. So let's just talk about really quick a few of these things. The cherry, there's the food, the 2 cherry foods or whatever, and the ranch. I was like, I need to use those, even though they're not really even something that I want to use. Now the ranch I would like to use, but it was pretty expired at this point. And I was like, I could probably use it if I could use it right now, but I normally use it for something I cook around the holidays. And like I said, it was pretty expired. So I'm like, let's just let it go. And I had already replaced it. So it was like trying to get that extra $1 or $2 out of it. The same with the cherry stuff. I ended up with those. One was like a cute little gifty thing. And the other was meant for a pie I had made over the holidays. And it didn't end up getting used. I don't, and it's not something I even would eat on a regular basis. That's why we didn't use it when we made the pie. In the CVS bag is some medicine that was super expired, but it was also dry medicine. Wasn't mixed. So I was like, okay, well, I can hold on to this, but it was very, very expired at this point. And a lot of that comes down to a fear. Growing up, I didn't have good health insurance. I didn't have, even in college, I didn't have health insurance. So you did things getting medicine was really hard and really expensive. And you did, it was just you just didn't, the tea, once again, just expired tea that I'm like, oh, I might drink one day when I'm sick. I have stuff. Okay. I have stuff that I can have when I'm sick. The Merrill box, once again, a container. I can use this for something else. How often do we, I can use this. I've put in a shoe, and I just had this conversation at the beginning of this challenge with the shoe boxes. Okay. The contacts, those were interesting. My doctor gave me those.
I hated them. But I'm like, oh, what if? I hated them. They didn't work for me, but what if? What if I could use them? Same with them. Those are like little shea butter sticks, or not shea, but beeswax sticks. I was like, oh, I can come up with a use for that. And then this rose absolute essential oil. Like, I have been holding on to that for so long because it's really expensive, but it doesn't even smell good anymore. But I'm just holding on to it because it was like super expensive. So I thought that was just kind of a fun way to really go look at my stuff. I really encourage you to do this, and I really encourage you to keep this top of mind, because I think this is one of the biggest challenges for people that to their decluttering, that they don't even, a lot of people don't even have the language to talk about it. So I thought this one was really important. I hope that it was helpful for you. If you're in the same boat, I get it. I'm with you. Don't feel judged. Talk about it. Let's all talk about it, because it's fine.
So let us know in the comments if this is something that you struggle with, and if you do, you're in good company. Believe me, I know that I am. I know I've talked to several people who felt kind of triggered by everything that's been going on. Yeah, and just let us know. Don't forget to post your progress pics on A.Typical or on Instagram, #A.Typical Declutter, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye!